What's up guys, Tate here, welcome back to my channel. Today, I will be stopping and ranking all 11 Star Wars movies from the worst to the best, or as I like to say, from the ones I like the least to the ones I like the most. Star Wars is a franchise that I've grown up watching, as a lot of people have, and I'm sure a lot of people have a bunch of opinions on which Star Wars movie is the best and which one's the worst. So today, I will add my name to the list of people who have done a video like this. So yeah, I'm going to be ranking every Star Wars movie, and before I begin, I just want you to know that there are going to be either two ways you react to this video. We could either be, one, oh my gosh, I agree with everyone here, or, oh my gosh, this guy needs to get a life. You can say whatever you want, but try and keep it civil in the comments. As you may have guessed, my list isn't the right list. So if you see one that's high on my list that you think should be lower, or if you see one that's low on my list that you think should be higher, it's perfectly fine. Just tell me what you think in the comments below. So with that being said, let's get wicked. Coming in last place, we have Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. This is probably one of the only movies in history where I liked the subplot better than the original plot. The main plot is basically the relationship between Anakin Skywalker and Padme, and the subplot is about similar to the Phantom Menace, the Jedi Order and the Senate trying to stop a war with the Separatists. Yeah, but honestly, that's pretty much exactly why it's down here at the bottom. I just couldn't enjoy the main plot, especially since the acting is just terrible, especially Hayden Christensen as Anakin. It's just awful. I just want him to go away. But like I said, the subplot is pretty good. I will give it that. I mean, Ewan McGregor does give a solid performance as Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I just couldn't enjoy it because it focuses way too much on stuff I'd rather not watch than stuff I would actually want to watch. And also, the pretty dull visuals don't really help as well. So yeah, this movie is all the way down here. Moving into our top 10, we have Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I'm pretty sure that half the time, this movie doesn't even know what its audience wants to be. One part of it is a story about trying to stop a war with the Separatists, and another part is basically about a bunch of characters who are basically living cartoons. And a child protagonist. And that's not really good. It doesn't make for a very compelling story, or it's not really interesting either. And it feels as though they were trying to make it pertain to the lowest common denominator and the youngest possible audience. It just feels like a 2-hour toy commercial. That's it. But don't get me wrong, it still has some good parts in it, like the third act is probably the best part of the movie, and Darth Maul, I liked him a lot. But honestly, I could pretty much care less about this movie. Yeah, I really could. Coming in at number 9, we have Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Man, I really wanted to like this movie, and pretty much everyone I've talked to likes it. Everyone on the internet hates it. Me personally, I don't really like it as much as everyone else does. In fact, I don't really like it at all. But I don't hate it as much as everyone on the internet does. But seriously, I just don't like... Am I the only one who sees that there's actually a problem with this movie? Yeah, I understand that they were trying so very hard to end the franchise on a high note, and I like how they decided to put as much fan service as possible in there. But honestly, that's all they care about. They don't even care about the writing. They would much rather focus on the fan service than anything else. But don't get me wrong. The visuals are fantastic. Some of the best visuals in the entire franchise. Aside from The Last Jedi and Rogue One. But, yeah. I don't like this movie because it focuses way too much on the nostalgia. And there are a bunch of moments in there that are put in there for fan service and fan service only. No other reason. So, yeah. I might be the only one that I know who actually sees a problem with this movie. But that's why I don't like it. Coming in at number 8, we have Solo. I personally thought this movie was just okay. It's perfectly okay. I like what they wanted to do. I like how they wanted to give a backstory for Han Solo and show us how he met Chewbacca, how he won the Millennium Falcon, and how he made the Kessel Run in just 12 parsecs. But it is a fun movie, but at the same time, it's also a mess. Fun, but a mess. What I mean by that is, I feel like they just tried a little too hard to make Han's backstory. I feel like they just kind of like, okay, how about we just get the Kessel Run over with, so that way we can see how everyone reacts to it. Yeah, and that's basically the big problem with today's Star Wars movies. They focus way too much on the fan service. Rise of Skywalker definitely has this problem, as I just said. And not enough on the writing. Now, don't get me wrong, it is a fun, it's a fun journey with Han Solo, but what I'm saying is, this movie could have been a lot better. It could have been a lot better if they had put a lot more thought into it. Coming in at number 7, we have Rogue One. This movie is also pretty okay. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the third act, and I love the climax and the ending. I love all that. But the one problem with this movie is just how they led up to it. I don't like how they introduce us to all of these new characters and new places, and they do it as though we're already supposed to know them, and we don't. And thus giving us all the characters are pretty much one-dimensional, and at times not even interesting. And all these places, no one knows what they are, so they're not interesting either. But like I said, the third act is really good, and I feel like that's the reason why people put it a lot higher. And they say that's the best of the Disney Star Wars movies, because once they reach the end of the movie, they're so excited about how good the third act was that they completely forget about how poorly written the rest of the movie is and say that the whole movie is good. But I noticed that the first two acts of the movie weren't really all that great. The third act was great, but yeah, that's why it's kind of in the middle for me. Coming in at number 6, we have Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. This movie is probably the best of the prequels, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. In fact, it's pretty decent enough. But like the other two prequels, it's still pretty much a mess. What I mean by that is, I don't really like how they paced it. They introduce us to what the Clone Wars is going on. They introduce us to General Grievous, who's probably one of the most vicious characters in the entire Star Wars universe. But then they kill him off before he can do anything, and then they just leave the rest of the movie to just do everything else. I didn't like how it was paced at all. But then again, it still is, like I said, the best of the prequels. The acting still isn't great, and the visuals are still kind of iffy, but overall, I thought this was a nice way to cap off the prequels. I love the ending. It's very intense and very emotional, and I like that. So, it barely made it out of my top 5, but I already mentioned the reasons for that. Moving into our top 5, we have Episode 8, The Last Jedi. I know what you guys are probably thinking. That movie ruined my childhood. If you don't put it in last place right now, I will kill you. And I do understand that's what people do say about this. Me, personally, I actually really enjoyed this a lot more than everybody else did. Because, honestly, it's one of the best Star Wars movies when it comes to themes and story and all that kind of stuff. By themes, I mean, it probably has the best executed themes in the entire franchise, especially with Luke Skywalker. And also, this is probably the best-looking Star Wars movie to date, aside from Rogue One. It's just that throne room scene. It's just amazing. Yeah, I understand a lot of people absolutely hated this movie, and I understand. But me, personally, this is a movie that I really enjoyed because of Rian Johnson put his work and effort into it. He wanted to change things up a little bit, not because he wanted to destroy everything the fans live and breathe for, like everyone says, but because he wanted to challenge their perceptions. Don't believe me? He actually said that. Coming in at number 4, we have Episode 3, Return of the Jedi. This is probably the weakest of the original trilogy, but that being said, it still is a pretty solid movie. I love how it ends the original trilogy so well, ties up every loose ends, whether it be Luke facing his father or how do I say this? Han falling in love with Princess Leia, and all that. And the way it sets up for it is pretty good. I love the third act. I know I keep saying that about pretty much all of these movies, but I really do. I love the final confrontation between Luke and Darth Vader and eventually Palpatine, but yeah. My one problem with this movie that keeps it from being out of the top 3 is that I feel like it doesn't really reach the cinematic heights of the other 2 movies in the original trilogy until the third act, which is, like I said, the best part in the movie. But still, it may be the weakest in the original trilogy, but still, it's a solid movie on its own. Moving into our top 3, we have Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Can we just all be honest for once here and say that this movie is good? This movie is really good. It has some great visuals. It builds great character development, especially from Finn. I would say Rey, but I kind of like Finn a little more. But yeah, I really love how it did that. It brought us back to the Star Wars universe so well. It was a huge breath of fresh air after the major disappointment that was the prequels. Yeah, I know a lot of people would have this one a lot lower, and they say it's exactly the same as A New Hope. And I will admit, there are a few moments that really do compare with A New Hope, but still, this is a really good movie, guys. This movie is not the same as A New Hope, and I know I've heard some people say that The Last Jedi is exactly the same as The Empire Strikes Back. It's not either. But back on to The Force Awakens. This movie is good, and it was a huge breath of fresh air after the prequels. It's the best in the sequel trilogy, and one of my top 3. It's not my runner-up or my number 1, but that doesn't mean it's still not good. Our runner-up on this list is Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Now, I know a lot of people consider this movie to be the best Star Wars movie of all time, and I will say it was my favorite for a while. Well, it's not really my favorite anymore, but still, is there anything new that can be said about this movie? It's so good. It continues the story so well, sets up everything so nicely, and if A New Hope did a great job at establishing our protagonist, Luke, then this movie did a great job at expanding him even further, and his duel with Darth Vader at the end is just unbelievable. One of the best in the entire series, and it leads up to one of the biggest plot twists in movie history. Those of you Star Wars fans, you probably know what it is, so I'm not really going to say it, but still, a lot of people consider this one to be the best. It's my runner-up, but still, it is really good. I definitely recommend it. But coming in at number 1, we have Episode 4, A New Hope. The reason that this is my favorite Star Wars movie, and possibly will forever will be, is because this movie does the best job at establishing everything. It does a great job at establishing the characters, it does a great job at establishing the world the characters live in, and it does a great job at doing pretty much everything else. I love the way it builds. I love the way they establish Luke Skywalker at the beginning as just a normal teenage farm boy, and by the end, he's a big hero. And it introduces our villain, Darth Vader, as this big and menacing guy, and I love that. I love whenever the first film establishes characters as at their best. And honestly, a lot of people like The Empire Strikes Back a lot more, but for me, nothing can beat this one. This is my favorite. It is the best Star Wars movie of all time, in my opinion, at least. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're new to this channel, go ahead and make sure and subscribe and click that bell to get notified about any latest videos, and leave a like and share it with your friends, because that really helps me a lot. Also, be sure to give me your list of your rankings of the Star Wars movies in the comments below. That's all I can say right now, so bye-bye.